Hi everyone, how are we doing? So in this video, the title is going to be what I'm coining Wokeism versus Awakeism. Now, I by no means profess to know everything about either of those, but I feel like I know a fair bit. So I just wanted to introduce this concept, this line of thinking. As you know, I do a lot of thought leadership based stuff, very much like think tank style approaches to life and how we can improve how we think and how we therefore behave in our personal lives and in the working world. So wokeism versus awakeism. And I'd say with this, like for both, there are many levels to becoming woke. So for me, and awake, but we'll start with woke. So for me, the term means that we become aware of and then want to champion certain initiatives and foster change within the system. So this is within the normal everyday system. A lot of it is to do with the working world and the way that we view different polarities when it comes to gender, for example, or a certain area of politics or whatever it is. But these desire for change still exists within that system, and the system will be, the basics of it are okay. We have a corporate world that operates a certain way, and we have industries and sectors that operate a certain way. So when we start getting passionate about these different areas, they're still within that system. They're still within. I guess you could call it a system of behaviour or a system of control. It's a way of operating, So this way of operating as a human, is, the conventional. We have a set standard education, certainly in the Western world. We have, a standard sort of lifestyle to live where we grow up, we get that education, we maybe get married, settle down, have kids, all of this stuff. We have a profession and a career, which we develop. And we have governments, we have our healthcare, we have politics. And these are, just a few examples. But these are the standard operating model, the standard way of doing things. And so we get very invested in that, very much identified with that. And then in these states of wokeism, we then are like, well, I can see that that's wrong over there. I want to bring about change. I can see that, we don't have enough inclusion when it comes to different gender types, or orientations, all this kind of stuff, for example. And there's nothing wrong with that. For me, it's like, these are stages of awakening. But for me, wokeism is still, it's contained within this system that I've just talked about, okay? Standard way of doing things, standard way of operating as a human. We're not really questioning that much beyond that system. We live in that system and we want to fight for certain things. But we're still probably fairly happy with it and want to continue operating in it for the most part. So for me, when you start getting beyond that, you start getting into, there's plenty of other terms for this, but let's just go with awakeism, where you start waking up to the fact that there is so much more going on in this world, or that is possible within this world that is outside of that system. And this is when you start to wake up to higher truths and to deeper insights and realizations about yourself, about the world, about the way business is done, about the way the corporate world really works in the background that we usually don't see. And a lot of collaboration and shared interests that come together to bring about certain outcomes. Most of that is happening in the background and we don't really see it. Shared interest, shared direction of travel, and those with the most money therefore usually have the most power and control, and they're not necessarily elected individuals or people that are chosen to have positions of influence. They make those positions of influence for themselves, usually via methods that are, very questionable in terms of morals and ethics and all the rest of it. So you become aware of this. So you look at like the, philanthropists or, the people out there in these very senior positions of influence in the world, whether they are elected or not, usually not. And you become aware, right, I'm starting to join the dots together here now. This is how the world is really operating. And so as you become more and more awake, there's kind of levels. Now, I'm still talking about this from the position, more of a position of corporate world and corporate behaviour, and levels of awareness, levels of responsibility. You could go into other areas, which is much more to do with like our personal development, but I'm not going to do that today. This is more just about, you're either operating within that system or you're starting to operate outside of that system, and what direction are you headed in? Do you want to continue to become aware of more outside of that system but still be in it where you need to, and do you want to help other people wake up to these realizations and understandings about the world, and especially the corporate world, for the purposes of being here and talking with you in this space? It's a question of how far we want to go, how far are we prepared to go, and the other thing is with this is about risk. So as well, to an extent, because the more you step outside of this system and the more you start to see and the more you start to piece together, the harder it becomes to align yourself with ways of doing things, methodologies, beliefs, all of this stuff that you've already kind of done and you've already kind of stepped beyond it. So this is what I try and do when I'm working with people, especially in the business world, is to say, look, once you start getting into these levels of what being awake, like you're not, most of the time you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You actually want to find methods that work, that encourage and foster growth, meaningful change, collaborating and working together, being able to operate at higher and higher levels in terms of your values, morals, ethics, all the rest of it. But you're not, at the same time, you're not, raging against the machine or trying to, chop people's legs off because you think they haven't got to this point yet or can see certain things. So it's a choice in terms of that direction that we're headed in, and this is the kind of stuff I'm really passionate about, because if we want real meaningful change to happen, we've got to work with people, and inspire and encourage people rather than working against them. So and in terms of like these levels of becoming awake outside of this control system, I'm a human being, I've only got to a certain point, and I know there are going to be many, many more levels beyond what I am aware of currently. So I accept that, I don't profess to know it all, but I do genuinely believe in this kind of, approach, and ideology, and leadership in thought that is kind of leading us in a positive direction, because there's so much out there, as you know, that leads us in a negative direction, and that's very hard to when you're having to operate in that energy so much of the time, especially in the corporate world, it's so restrictive. And I need to put food on the table, or I need to look after my family, or I've got to make sure I've got enough money in the bank, all the rest of it. So I can't say this, and I can't do this, and I can't be this person. I just have to keep myself a little down here. And I've been there, and I'm still there a little bit, but there comes a time when I think we all really start questioning what's it worth, in terms of selling ourselves short and selling ourselves out, for peace of mind and for convenience. If the last few years have taught us anything, that for a lot of people, it's they're realizing they can't do that anymore. But that's probably a little bit of a negative spin on it. Hopefully what I'm delivering in this particular video is like, encouraging conversation about where we should be headed, and hopefully some of you will agree with that. Not everybody, fine, but but I think that's it for this video. Hopefully that's a bit of insight and encouraging a conversation about wokeism and then awakeism, interesting concepts. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you're interested in knowing more about what I do, the info's on the website. You find that in the description. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.